Of course, in non-Drake related news, players in this year's event probably noticed the long-awaited RSI Polaris touring around the Stanton system. Well, it's not quite flight ready yet, but we thought we'd ask the guys for a status update all the same and see if we can't get a closer look at the progress being made while we do it.
We really wanted to have some form of the exterior of the Polaris at Invictus launch week.
We wanted to mix up the capital ships on display this year.
Being a big kind of military show, it made perfect sense to be able to kind of show it off in its best light. We pushed quite hard to get the exterior to a point where we're happy to show it publicly.
This meant we've prioritized doing the exterior over the interior. So the exterior you see is pretty much final art. All it is missing is really the damage setup, as I'm sure people have tried to do. It is currently invulnerable, or hopefully invulnerable in game.
Visually, I think not only have we been trying to get it out so we can show it, but we've also tried to kind of really push the quality of the exteriors of some of our kind of like large capital ships. And what that has meant is that we needed to focus a few more artists than what we'd normally put on the exterior of a ship, just to make sure we kind of hit that quality bar and we hit it on time. It's pretty close to being LOD 0, which means that the majority of the main modeling's done. There's still a whole bunch of decal work. The finer details, what we call as POM details, pass needs to be done, and that really kind of helps to elevate the kind of like the close read. I think the distance read and the mid reads are like brilliant, and to be fair, the close read when you get up in personal is looking really, really good. It's just we've still got that kind of like final sprinkle of polish to go on.
With the focus on the exterior and pushing that as far as we could in the time we had, the interior is not quite as far along. It is more around the greybox stage, but the people we'd put on the exterior now will be moving on to the interior.
Normally on a vehicle, as we try to kind of keep the development stages in line throughout the kind of like the life cycle of its development, it means that the interior isn't, it's not at the same level that the exterior is.
We've been focusing on the core traversal areas of the ship.
The majority of the rooms have now been worked up. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 rooms that are still in white box that still need a decent amount of kind of modelling and work doing to them. But the rest of the rooms now are kind of getting to the point where we're pretty close to grey box.
So the bridge, the main corridors, the hab area, the cargo bay, torpedo rooms, and all the turrets. So these are a bit further along than some of the more secondary rooms like the brig and the medical bay.
When you think of the Polaris, like its key points are the torpedoes. And I think that's been an area that has needed quite a lot of iteration on, and we're not quite there yet. One of the things that we're kind of really trying to make sure feels good from a player's point of view is the kind of like the loading of the torpedoes and seeing them kind of be from in your cargo hold to being in the kind of like loading mechanism and then being ready to fire. So on the kind of like lower deck and front half of the vehicle, we've got these big torpedo loaders. And that's an area that it's needed quite a lot of iteration to make sure it feels right. And we are still in that process. It's not kind of fully signed off. We're not completely happy with that area, but it certainly kind of makes up the heart of the ship. Otherwise, on the interior, the main upper deck is kind of really starting to come on. The engineering section is another kind of area that I think is really important in our capital ships and kind of getting to a level that we're happy with. From the kind of concept into production, we have opened up the bridge of the ship a little bit. One of the things we wanted to do was when you kind of enter onto the bridge, this should feel kind of like super exciting and super rewarding to the player. If they've managed to kind of get one of these ships, we want it to feel like they are kind of really living that kind of military life dream. So we've spent a bit of time kind of opening it up, giving some nicer views as you kind of enter onto the bridge itself. What we really wanted to do was kind of make sure that the player views are good, the captain gets a great kind of view out the front, and make sure that navigating around that area, especially as kind of more and more kind of multi-crew gameplay systems come online, we want to make sure that there's enough space on that bridge to have not just the captain and the pilot, but a whole crew there.
Compared to the concept mesh, one not big change, but unresolved area was the hangar opening. It's quite a complex shape to open. So we spent a lot of time working on that, but that's all resolved. And then another thing we are looking at in the future is actually doing some more upgunning of the turrets. So it is not just a torpedo boat. It can sort of hold its own against other capital ships with its turrets. You'll see more of that as we get closer to releasing it, which we are aiming for at IAE this year.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that the Drake Ironclad is the next cargo ship from Drake designed to fill that gap between the Caterpillar and the larger Hull series offerings. That working on it helps to flesh out resources needed to bring the long-awaited Kraken to life in the future. And that the Polaris is coming along pretty nicely, even if it's not Drake, which we didn't learn was the best because we all already knew that in our hearts.
But Disco says KDOT is the best.
And with that, this very long 17-episode season of Inside Star Citizen comes to a close. We said we'd go straight through until Alpha 323 was out, and we did that, and then some more. And it's time for our team to take a breather, catch up on some admin work, and begin working on the next great season of ISC that'll start up again on June 20th. So for Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for taking the time to let us share the process of game development with you each week, and we'll see you when we get back.